सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः. Chapter 10, verses 1 to 10. Shri Bhagavanuvāca Bhūya eva mahabāho Shrunu me paramam vacaha Yatteham priyamanaya Vakshāmyi hitakamyaya Name vidu suraganaha Prabhavam namaha shayaha Ahamadirhi devanam Maharshinam cha sarvashaha Yo mamajamanadim cha Veti lokamaheshwaram Asammudha samartyeshu Sarvapapai pramuchyate Buddhir jnana sammohaha Kshama satyam dhamma shamaha Sukham dukkham bhavo bhavaha Bhayam cha bhayameva cha Ahimsa samata tushtihi Tapodanam yasho yashaha Bhavanti bhava bhutanam Matayeva prutagvidhaha Maharshaya sapta purve Chatvaro manavastatha Madbhava manasa jataha Yesham loka imah prajaha Yetam vibhuktim yogam cha Mama yo veti tattvataha So vikampena yogena Yujyate natra samshayaha Aham sarvasya prabhavaha Mukta sarvam pravartate Iti mam bhajate Iti matva bhajante mam Buddha bhava samanvitaha Machit kamadgata pranaha Bodhayanta parasparam Kathayantascha mam nityam Tushyanti charamanti cha Tesham satata yuktanam Bhajatam priti purvakam Dadami buddhir yogam tam Yena mamupayanti te. Hari Om. Namaskar. Chapter 10, entitled Vibhuti Yoga. Remove the participants in the corner. So the Vibhuti Yoga title, the Yoga of Supreme Manifestation. The chapter has got 42 verses. The 42 verses has been divided into 4 topics. So it has been mentioned. You can take a note. The first topic, knowing its supreme nature, the wise attain Brahman, verses 1 to 11. 12 to 18, the second topic, how does Brahman pervade the world? How does one know Brahman? One to 11, first topic, knowing its supreme nature, the wise attain Brahman. How does Brahman pervade the world and how does one know Brahman? 12 to 18. The third topic, the Brahman's supreme manifestation shown analytically. That is 19 to 38. And the last topic, Brahman transcends the world, which is a mere fragment of its being. So the world is a mere fragment, mere insignificant portion of the world. The world is rather an insignificant portion of Brahman. That is 39 to 42. So when you have, this is not an original text, but this dissection of giving topics to a chapter gives you a panoramic view as to what is the content of the chapter. So let's get on. We'll chant the first verse. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Bhuya eva mahabaho Shrunu me paramam vachaha Yatte ham priyamanaya Vakshyami hitakamyaya Shri Bhagavanuvacha Bhuya eva mahabaho Shrunu me paramam vachaha Yatte ham priyamanaya Vakshyami hitakamyaya. The blessed Lord said, O Mahabaho, another name for Arjuna, Arjuna, listen again to my supreme word, which I will declare to you. O Mahabaho, listen to my supreme word, Vakshyami. I will declare, I will speak to you because you are delighted. Priyamanaya, you are delighted to hear from me, and I do so hitakamyaya, for your own welfare. So here the verse highlights how important it is to have a student who is qualified, a student who is eager, a student who is interested to receive the Lord's message or the teacher's message. So it is always the the student that inspires the teacher. Considering the teacher has got an ocean of knowledge, considering the teacher has got an ocean of wisdom, it is thereafter up to the student to draw it out. So here the Lord is so delighted to speak because Arjuna is so delighted to listen. So the student is so prepared, the student is so receptive to receive the knowledge. So it tells how much preparation a student needs to do and come so that the teacher can give his best. Considering I have come prepared, considering I am ready to give, to what extent are you all keen to receive this knowledge? And that's what is being highlighted. So you are delighted to receive, suggesting that intellectually you are very receptive, really keen to learn it. Mahabaho, referring to someone who is physically ready. So one who is physically, mentally, intellectually equipped to receive the knowledge. As we understand, as teachers, having been in classrooms, we do see three types of students, broadly speaking. The first category of students, I don't think first two categories belong to this classroom. But the first two categories, the first category is that fellow goes to a classroom, to a teacher, to gauge how much the teacher knows, or is constantly evaluating the teacher from his understanding, from his standpoint. The second type of students are those who go to showcase their knowledge to the teacher. How well versed they are, how well read they are, how smart they are, how witty they are, how they can challenge the teacher or the guru. And the third kind of students are those who are genuinely interested to receive the knowledge from the guru. They put aside their understanding and they want to receive sincerely. They go there only for the jnana. So Lord is convinced that Arjuna is of the third category, that he is there, he is delighted to only receive your knowledge. Since you're delighted, I will give it. And another point which the verse mentions is that whatever a teacher does, whatever a guru does, more so a guru here in the spiritual context, a guru does for the student or the shishya, hitakamyaya, only for the hitam, means for the good, for the welfare of the student. Whatever a guru does. So what is being understood or taken into account is the guru has no axe to grind. There is nothing that a guru expects in this transaction in a guru-shishya relationship. There is nothing that a guru expects from the student. There is no axe to grind. There is nothing that a guru wants, but whatever a guru does, the student must wholeheartedly accept that the guru is doing only for my well-being. The guru may be understood, the guru may not be understood, may be accepted, may not be accepted. Thereafter, once you surrender to the guru, once you are committed, convinced that he is my guru and I surrender to him, thereafter you don't question whatever is being done. That doesn't mean you follow blindly, but you ought to exercise your intellect, but you don't doubt, you don't suspect that malice is not there in the relationship any further. Now, why I say this is in that guru-shishya relationship, as a teacher, I'm saying, I find in that relationship, there's a lot of resistance from the students. The student doesn't embrace or doesn't allow the guru to push the student to bring about a change in that student. There is a resistance. From whose perspective? Okay, from your perspective. From a student, are you allowing the guru to help you grow? which means I have to push you into areas where you're uncomfortable. As we say, a full-grown tree will not bend, it will break. You become rigid as you grow along. And I see a lot of that rigidity, a pattern that you have set in. You have got into a pattern. Rightfully or wrongfully, you have got into a pattern, and that is so difficult to change. And I can see the resistance. I'm not being personal to anyone here. I'm just saying how a teacher experiences it. So that complete surrender from the student is paramount, so that that transformation happens. And what is that rigidity in our philosophical terms? Not ego, not non-acceptance. You don't want to change. How much of it means, in the sense, unknowingly you're presenting a resistance. Fear of change means you're not surrendered to the Guru then. You're not even accepting whatever the Guru is saying. Ignorance, very general. Lack of trust. So, very conservative attitude, which we learned in the previous text. That not wanting to change, it's tamas. That rigidity or not wanting to change is tamas. And I see a lot of it. I have led this life, it's my way or no other way. I think this is right. Then where is the transformation? Where is the readiness? Conditioning is conditioning. See, as you know, sir, tamas in science, tamas says law of inertia, isn't it? Law of inertia also states that an object remains in static state or in a motion, and it will not change its course until it's acted upon. An object can remain in motion, or it will get into motion, and it will continue to maintain its course of motion until something external acts upon. Now, in a Guru-Shishya relationship, it's the Guru that has to help you to move on from where you are. And there is a resistance. To that extent, you don't believe that what the Guru is telling me is for my well-being. You have not surrendered to the Guru. That 100% Sharanagati is not there. There is thereafter no doubt. Whatever the Guru does, there's no question. Ekalavya and Dronacharya. Ekalavya never misunderstood Dronacharya. The people who misunderstood Dronacharya's acts, not Ekalavya. Whatever the Guru did, no questions asked. The Guru tells, get out, you get out. Jump, jump. Whatever. That kind of, it's not a passive acceptance, but it is a dynamic understanding that here is a man who is doing only for my well-being. And a Guru will only help you to the extent you have surrendered. Otherwise, he will not interfere. You're not allowing to interfere. So, a true Guru will not interfere. Let you be what you are. Let you live the life. But only when you surrender, you get help. So these are the essential qualities of a student. And this verse only highlights that essence that is required for an ideal student. What is the word Priyamanaya? Means you are very delighted. I see you very delighted to hear. Therefore, I will speak. I will declare to you. I'll listen again to my supreme word. Means listen to the glory of the self, because you're interested. You're delighted to hear. It's always the student that draws the knowledge out of the teacher. It has happened at times. It has happened at times that I'm doing the same text, same chapter to different audiences. The course of the week, different audience, same teacher, same text, completely different interpretation, completely different flow, completely different outlook. It just amazes how much the student plays a role for the teacher to bring out. Considering the teacher has it in it. If it doesn't have it, it can't do much. Isn't it? So the role of a student is as much important. Therefore, when we chant the invocation, it is both the teacher and taught chanting together. We both want to evolve. I will help you evolve, you help me evolve. So we all come prepared for this experience, for this transaction. I can't come ill-prepared, nor can you come ill-prepared. Both are essential ingredients. That's the message in the first verse. Let's move on. Name vidu suraganaha prabhavam na maharshayaha ahamadir hi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashaha. Name vidu suraganaha prabhavam na maharshayaha ahamadir hi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashaha. Neither the hosts of gods nor the great sages know my origin. For in every way I am the source of all the gods and the great sages. The hosts of gods. Neither the hosts of gods nor the great sages know my origin. Now, what in essence he's trying to say is, apart from, I'll go into the detail what these gods and sages symbolize, that there is no transaction between the fourth state. The fourth state of evolution or realization is known as Turiya. That is an unconditioned state. So there is no communication from an unconditioned state to the conditioned state of a waker. We are in the third state, which is a waking state, correct? Huh? So there is no communication from the fourth to the third state. Nor, just like there cannot be a communication between a waker and a dreamer. If you don't understand what the fourth and the third is, there is no communication between one who is woken up from sleep to one who is still asleep. There is no communication. There are two different worlds, two different experiences, two different realms. How can there be a transaction? So when he uses the words, the gods and the sages, which means the gods and sages refers to the highly evolved spiritual people who have not yet attained self-realization. So they are all still in the third plane of consciousness. What are the three planes of consciousness? The deep sleep state of consciousness, the dream state of consciousness, the waking state of consciousness, and the state of pure consciousness, which is Turiya. These are the four states: deep sleep, dream, waking, and the fourth state. So there is no communication between any of the states. So when he says gods and sages, so the gods here, the highly spiritually evolved, highly sattvic people, the noblest of people, the best, but short of self-realization, as I've said. They have not attained moksha yet. So what it means, they do not know Brahman. That's what he says. Neither the hosts of gods nor the great sages know my origin. They don't know me. They have not attained that state of oneness with Brahman. So they don't have knowledge of Brahman. I am the source of all the gods and the great sages. Now, this is, if you take literally, but philosophically, what do the words gods and sages represent? The gods represent the senses. Philosophically, you can't take, oh, who are the gods he's talking about? Is Shiva also included? Is Brahma also included? Let's not get into that kind of ridiculous things. It's symbolic. Don't have to take it literally. Oh, which sage is he excluding? Is he including himself in it? Philosophically, what's implication? The gods symbolically means the senses. The Lord of the gods. Who is the Lord of the gods? Sanjay. Who is the Lord of your senses?
The Indriyas.
Senses are the Indriyas.
Oh, sorry. The Lord of the senses is the mind.
Perfect. The Lord of the senses is the mind. And the sage here refers to the intellect. Because a man of wisdom is intellect. Sage is an intellect. Senses is the mind. Senses are the devas, the plural. The Lord of the gods, the Lord of the senses is the mind. The intellect is the sage. So the senses, nor the mind, nor the intellect can understand Brahman. That's what it means. The concept becomes very clear. The understanding becomes very clear thereafter. There is no issue thereafter. It becomes easy to understand. And if you want to know who the gods and the sages are, the gods here refers to the 11 Rudras, the 8 Vasus, the 12 Adityas, Prajapati, the 49 Maruts, the twin Ashwin Kumaras, Indra, and others. This all refers to the gods. The sages are the 7 sages which are implicated here: Bhrigu, Vivaswan, Sudama, Angiras, Atri, Vishwamitra, and Vashishta. But we are not to be concerned or interested of these names. Philosophically, God's senses, the mind, and the intellect cannot reach God. Now, why can't it reach God? That we also understand, we ought to understand. Why can't the senses, why can't the mind, why can't the intellect understand God or experience God? Why? God is above it. Pritima, can I request you to use the microphone? You just have to press the button down. There's a small button down. Press and hold it as it comes blue. Samyama. It's at the bottom.
Because the Brahman is above senses, mind, and intellect, transcends all these 3.
Can you all hear Pritima? All right, great. Now we're just making sure the system also working now. Hold on. I want to hear the English again. Can you please say again? Can you hold the mic like this?
I said that because the Brahman transcends senses, mind, and intellect. It's beyond these 3 categories. So
one way of saying that it transcends the senses, mind, and the intellect, right? It's beyond it.
yeah.
All right. Now, what else argument you can say to convince ourselves that God cannot be experienced in the sense the body, mind, intellect? Senses is the body. We can't capture God through your body, mind, intellect. What else is a sound logical argument we can give ourselves to to convince ourselves. It seals the case. It's like theorems, it should come. So you are very clear thereafter. Ramji, where's the other mic here? Sorry, one sec, please.
Because God is formless, there is no form, there is no physical form of God, and it is all pervading, and it has no start and end. So the senses can only perceive what is physical. So since there is no physical form, the senses can't perceive.
Then if it's only with reference to the senses, then what about the mind, feeling, and the intellect understanding?
Because we said that mind is too analytical to understand God. Not mind, intellect is too analytical to understand God. Because you can experience God only when you leave the logic and take the final leap of faith. Then only you can experience God. As long as you are using your intellect, you can't experience God. This is what at least my understanding.
Okay, all of that, if you were to summarize, body, mind, intellect cannot experience God. Why? If you have to sum it up, what does it boil down to?
It's still physical and limited. They're part of matter.
Could you?
Oh, sorry. They're still physical and limited. They're part of matter. Through matter, you cannot perceive the spirit.
Through matter, you cannot perceive spirit. Yes. Okay, just hold on. Shantima, any idea why we cannot experience God through the body, mind, intellect?
Because they are in a different state. Just now Guruji mentioned, there is no communication between the fourth and then the third
State of consciousness. Yes. Yeah, that's true. What other reasoning can we give ourselves? All right. Okay. Sanjay? You're not wrong, Shantima, but I'm just looking for a logic. Yes,
Because
Sanjay?
the body, because the senses, mind, and intellect are just pointed outwards. So they can't see they're pointed towards the world. Is that?
No.
No? Okay.
No. With your intellect, aren't you examining
yeah.
with yourself? You can
Yes.
introspect, can't you? Reflect, can't you go inward? You can.
Of course.
You can. We can't say that
Yes.
they're only pointing outward. No.
Yeah.
Padminima, she's saying God is that which enables one to experience. Explain yourself. What do you mean by that?
We see, or we are able to see or hear or make use of our senses only because behind all this there is the Brahman which makes or which enables us to experience through our senses, and it is that which enable us to have feelings and also use our intellect. So it is beyond all these things. So it is not an experience. It is becoming that. Brahman is that which you become. And what is that?
I know we always are lost for words. I can relate to you. So Brahman is beyond the experience. It is that which enables your experiences. So in fact, the concept we ought to understand. Yeah, Jama, you have something to say?
A terrestrial cannot conceive transcendental.
The terrestrial cannot conceive the transcendental. Yes, but it is still, it doesn't really give the thing. God is subject the body, mind, and intellect are the various objects. The body perceives the sense of objects. The mind feels emotions. The intellect conceives thoughts. Right? But God cannot be perceived, felt, or understood because God is not an object. What is God? We are saying God is the subject. Body, mind, and intellect can only conceive an object. What is the object for the senses, sense organs? Eyes need sight, nose needs smell, tongue needs taste, ear needs sound, etc. So, for the body, it is a sense objects. For the mind, it is the emotions of envy, greed, jealousy, love, etc. For the intellect, it is the thoughts, as I'm throwing thoughts at you. So these are all objects. So the organs, the equipments can only perceive objects of perception. But God is not an object. What is God? God is a subject which enlivens these organs. As Padmini Ma said, it is not an object of experience. It is that which enabling you to experience. Since it's that which enables you to experience, you can't capture God through body, mind, intellect. Are you following, Pritima? Brahman or God is the same. With reference to the verse, which is verse 2, we said, what are the gods? Senses. The verse did not say God. The verse did not say singular. I am saying singular God, G-O-D, is the subject. But when I say gods in plural, it means senses. Never mistake singular to plural. And that grammatical difference makes a world of difference. God is only one. Brahman is one. When you say gods, it's the various powers of the world.
I think the confusion could be because the word devas has been translated as gods. Maybe it should be lesser gods or something of that sort.
No, there is no qualification under that.
Because when we say God, we generally think in terms of the Trinity, or we think in terms of Vishnu, Brahma, Shiva.
Yeah, that's what it is. So
Okay.
what are these gods? When you say Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Ganesha, etc., what are these gods? These are gods. In fact, since we say senses, they are also called as, okay, now what we are saying is gods are please write this down so that your understanding becomes clearer. Gods are the manifested powers in the world. There is one God, which is Brahman. All the gods are nothing but manifested powers the manifested powers in the world. Whose manifested powers are they? Of God. So gods are what? It's very right to say all these gods are only symbolic representation. They are only symbolic representations of the power of that one unmanifest God. What you and I perceive is the manifested power. Like we see creation, we see death, we see maintenance. So what they have done, they have divinized these manifestations. Creation is Lord Brahma, destruction is Lord Shiva, maintenance is Lord Vishnu. So we have given it a name and a form to a power which is existing in nature. And what is this nature? What is this world? It is just a fragment. Did we not say in the Brahman transcends the world, a mere fragment of its being. So the world is just a fragment of that mass consciousness which is unmanifest, which is God, G-O-D. So we should not mix the gods to God. So the God is the subject, ultimate subject. The moment it is perceived, it loses its status as a subject. The God cannot be perceived, nor conceived, nor felt. Therefore, it is the ultimate subject. Therefore, God cannot be experienced.
If we replace the word God with self, it will be still the same meaning.
Yes.
Right.
In fact, since you say, sir, what are the various synonyms of God? Ensure the mics are switched off after your use. Huh? So what are the synonyms of God? Atman. You can say Brahman. You can say correct. In fact, it is called the pure consciousness. It's also called self. What else? The supreme reality. What else? The unmanifest. It's also called causeless cause. What else? Somebody yes used spirit and matter. Brahman is also spirit. Yeah. It is also called soul. Yes. Purusha. It's also called enlivenment principle, and so on and so forth. So all these mean the same. Soul only refers to the Brahman. Jiva is the matter. So spirit, did we write the word spirit? Spirit, matter. Matter is, in the context of spirit, we say it's matter. So all of that, keep that on for those online want to take a note. So these are the sections. If we don't get it right, we misunderstand. Because what does gods mean? It doesn't have to be taken literally, but even though there is reference to who they are, it only suggests now you can't say, oh, does it mean Vishwamitra is not self-realized? Oh my God. We get into absurdity. Therefore, I didn't want to give out names. I didn't want to give the 11 Rudras or the Vasus or the Adityas or Prajapati. All it is getting into non-relevant aspects. What we must understand, the senses, the mind and intellect cannot conceive God. Full stop. All okay, Samyama? Pritima, you were saying something earlier? All good? No, there is merging in the sense when Jiva merges with the Atman. It is the self-realization. Again, there are terms meaning that it's not that again there's a superlative Atman. There is no superlative Atman. Atman is only one. But these are all the terms that are used in the Shastras. So when we come across, we only need to understand they're referring to the same thing. In fact, another thing we use is I. The Shastras say I, even in the verse he says, I am the source. I also refers to the Atman, the capital I. So please add the I in the list. All means the self. There is no difference between Atman or Paramatma or Brahman. Atman and Brahman are one and the same. They are terms used in different contexts. Like when we talk of the God within an individual, we call it Atman. But the same God is manifesting in every living being. So when it's a macrocosmic expression, we call it Brahman. When it's a microcosmic, it is, sorry? No, micro and macro is only matter. This physicality, this individuality, Jiva, or the en mass individuality are the same. It's just a macro mass, matter we are talking about. But the self is the same. Is electricity in this bulb, is electricity in all the bulbs. Is the same electricity in all the gadgets. Where is space? Outside. Yes, but yet we say it is a pot space, living space, hall space, dining space. But space is indivisible, no? Correct. So the closest example to the all-pervasive nature, you said the all-pervasive nature, the closest is space. And why is closest is space? Because of all elements, space is the subtlest of all elements. And that's the closest to Brahman. No. It's a different consciousness. In the terrestrial realm, it's the subtlest that we can transact. Okay. Right. Move on. Third verse, please. Are you all okay online? Great. Right. Speak out. Yo mamajamanadim cha veti lokamaheshwaram asammudha samartyeshu sarva papai pramuchyate. Yo mamajamanadim cha veti lokamaheshwaram asammudha samartyeshu sarva papai pramuchyate. Looks like Atman Brahman has got a little sunburn. What editing is this? I may have wrongly typed. The editing team has done not correct proofreading. He who knows me as unborn, not sunborn. I know summer has come, but doesn't make a difference to the Brahman, please, Gayatri Ma. It doesn't make a difference to Brahman. Please edit it to unborn. Know me as Ajam, unborn, Anadim, beginningless, as the great Lord, Loka Maheshwaram, the great Lord of the world, he undeluded among the mortals is liberated of all sins. Asammudha sa matyeshu. The undeluded amongst the mortals. Now, how many amongst us are undeluded? N-lot. N-lot. Everybody, all of us are deluded only in degree. Difference is only in degree. All of us are same kind. The deluded lot we all are. Very sad to say so, but we are all the deluded category. Such a person is liberated of all sins. So, unborn, ajam, again knows me. Obviously, me cannot be Krishna because Krishna died. If at all there was a personality like Krishna, if at all. Because if you are purely intellectual, and I'm not trying to dislodge any emotion here, if you're purely intellectual, just using your intellect, you and I understand Bhagavad Gita, which consists of 700 verses, is just a small portion of the text Mahabharata, which runs into 100,000 verses, close to 100,000 verses. So here is a text which is 100,000 verses. A small section of that is the Gita. And Mahabharata is a play written by the great Vyasa. So Mahabharata is a figment of Vyasa's imagination. It's a story spun by Vyasa. If it is story spun by Vyasa, then Krishna is just a hero, a prominent character in the play written by Vyasa. There it ends. I knew something was coming my way.
No, is it a story spun by Vyasa? It was a story, it was happenings narrated by Vyasa. He recorded the happenings.
Sir, an ordinary mortal can say something which is happened in history. Like I can tell what somebody spoke. If you tell me to write a scripture by myself, it will be long shot because I am also deluded. But you talk of a great Mahatma like a Vyasa or a Valmiki or a man of giant intellect. Why should he parrot what happened in history to mankind as if mankind didn't know what happened in past? Mortals repeat what was said. They parrot, they ape what was done by the predecessors, but not great men. They are revolutionists. They are great thinkers. Like if you say, oh, Adi Shankaracharya must have copied something from the old scriptures and given out. Nothing of it is original of Adi Shankaracharya. Papam. And the papam solla mudiyuma. Is it not belittling a caliber of a great guru to say he has just narrated what happened in history, in time? What is the necessity? No, whatever a guru has done, whatever knowledge has been transmitted was done with the only objective of uplifting. That's what the first verse says, no? I am doing it because hitakamyaya, for your welfare, I'm teaching this. What is itihasa? That's what I'm saying. You don't have to be purely rational. Even if you take in some time in history, you say, because again, you are going by history, some dates, so there's a place that exists, Kurukshetra existed. All of this is conditioning over decades or generations we've been conditioned. Now I'm questioning the very edifice of what it is. Can I have the intellectual strength to just question it and say, oh, there is a possibility. I'm not saying it's truth. I'm only saying there's a possibility that it could have happened. It's a possibility, as you say, it could have been narrated. But if you take that way, if you take intellectually, then this verse or anywhere it makes sense because he says, no to me as unborn. Who is me unborn? Krishna was born even in history. Krishna died in history. There was a physical birth, physical death. But then it's not applicable to this statement. Not here. Many a time it's not applicable. Because there's a birth and death only to the body, to the individuality, to the jiva, not to Atman. So when they say me and I, it not refers to the individuality, it refers to the self, the Atman. This is where if you go pure intellectual line, let not the emotion or devotion or our reverence to that personality whom we look up to should not come and interfere here. Like you don't bring in devotion to intellection. You don't intellectualize a bhajan. You don't have to understand a bhajan to feel it. You can just feel, even if it's sung in a Marathi or in a language which is alien to you, you can still feel the emotion. You don't have to intellectualize or rationalize. Therefore, at the same way, you should not dilute the intellection with bhakti or devotion when you are analyzing it. So just there are two different routes, I'm saying. I'm taking that route only to tell that when he says, know me as unborn, here it means the Atman, not Lord Krishna. Again, when you say, these are again saying, I'm purely taking logic. If you say X, Y, Z is an incarnation of A, B, C, you know, when can a person be incarnated or born again? If a person needs to be born again, if there is a birth, an occurrence of birth only implies that you have not attained realization. If somebody has attained realization, the question doesn't arise for him to be reborn again, because there's no more fuel or vasana or desire that is driving him to be born. So when somebody says, I am incarnation of so-and-so, that person does not know what is talking, nor do their devotees know what they are doing. It is blind led by the blind, as we read in the Upanishads. In the Mundaka Upanishad, we learned, the ignoramuses, one fellow says something, the rest of the fellows keep parroting and say, oh, I am incarnation of this, I am that. Oh, go on. No man of realization can ever be born again. And if you are born, means you're not realized. If you claim that Lord Krishna is an incarnation of so-and-so, that means that person whose incarnation he is not realized. It is possible, what they say, it's possible that Lord Krishna could have realized in the womb. He is a born mortal like you and me, but he just needed that few experiences in the womb that you have exhausted your prarabdha, and from the moment you are born, you are a perfect soul, right? True. So you look at life of Lord Krishna as a Balakrishna. He exhibited miracles. All that justifies that he was a man of realization from birth. But there could have been those one or two lingering vasanas that experience in the womb. Theoretically, science, Vedanta gives all reasonings for us to accommodate it. But it also very rationally says no man of realization can be born again.
So the popular understanding, the general understanding, the understanding is that Lord Krishna is a manifestation of Lord Vishnu. I don't know how the karmic debt or the karmic theory can apply to the Lord. If a human being has reincarnated again, yes, the karma, he's still within the fold of karma. Mahavishnu reincarnate, where does karma come into it?
Therefore, nobody can be reborn again. There is no question of rebirth. Mahavishnu is what? Again, did we not say Vishnu is just a manifested power of Brahman? Brahman has no name and form. So don't give me, we cannot look at names and forms as the ultimate supreme reality. Supreme reality is formless, nameless, beyond Nama Rupa. Are we clear on that term, sir? Then if you call it, you may call it Shiva, you may call it Mahavishnu, you may call it Brahma, you may call it anybody, Vinayagar, you may call it any name. All these are expressions of the manifested world. And what is the world? What is another term for the world?
Samsara.
Samsara. In the context, sir, what is other term for the world? Maya. If the world is Maya, The manifested powers also are. So what are we talking? So Lord Vishnu also is a Maya, no? Is like 1 minute. I can give an example. Let's say I have example only. Yeah? Imagine I have become a citizen of America because we have applied for a US visa, and they are saying 2 years. The date is now 1 year, now 6 months, 3 months. There's a visa appointment. Imagine I had dreamt that I have got a citizenship. Where? In the dream. Can I go to the embassy and say, please give my passport? They'll kick me out. What are you? Are you in your senses? What's wrong with you? So the dream is illusory. My visa is illusory. My notions are illusory. So there is no sense to the waking state, isn't it, sir? Are you with me? Exactly the same way, the waking world is an illusion. The manifested powers in the world are illusory. That you have divinized also should be illusory. With reference to Turiya, the fourth state, the Brahman, which is what all the synonyms have written. From that point of view, you may call it Shiva, Vishnu, Kurmaha, Narasimha Avataram. All these are all names and forms for your conveniences so that you evolve. Once you reach that state of evolution, once you reach and transcend this state, you get to that state where there is no birth, no death. But all this in the finite world have birth and death. You get me, sir? We should not mix. The problem will come when you're mixing it from a devotional angle to intellectual angle. You should not mix it up.
It's not just about the devotional angle. I'm thinking, after all, even in real life, I mean, the life we know, there are less evolved beings, there are more evolved beings. All that may be eventually illusory at the highest level of reality, but there is relative reality. And when in the Gita it says Bhagavan Uvacha.
Who is that?
From what you're saying,
The Lord.
if you from a Vedantic point of view, it's a Parabrahman or the Brahman speaking. Eventually, that's only Bhagavan.
But if you come to the context, it's the Lord. It's a conversation between Lord Krishna and Arjuna.
Correct. So, in that sense, Lord Krishna is it's an Amsa, an avatar of, we can see it as a Mahavishnu or the Brahman itself. To that extent, he is a higher being than the others. That's why it's happening through him.
What is happening through him?
The giving of wisdom.
Yes.
So to that extent, there is a relative reality which puts him at a higher level than the others. In the final analysis, everything is an illusion, except Parabrahma, I agree.
Yes.
Vedavyasa is recording that for the benefit of humanity. So can we say he's just created fiction?
The story could be fictionary. That's what I'm saying. Like Shakespeare wrote 37 plays. Am I right?
No.
Not necessarily every play was an actual reality.
No.
Not necessary. Some could be, some may not have been.
But recent evidences, a lot of evidence are coming out about the Mahabharata and that it actually happened and so on and so forth. There's many debates going on.
No, we don't. Let's not lose our track. We don't mind. No. Now it is only what we are saying is ultimately what is the knowledge that you can draw out of it and how it can help me transform myself. Otherwise, we can completely get distracted. We can get drawn away into many things which is beyond our control. We should bear that in mind. Irrespective of it, this is the reality. You got to exercise your intellect to the point to see what is the truth behind it. Okay? Ma, just pass the mic to her, please. Press and hold it.
We hear the verse so often, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir. So would you explain that in this context?
Which context?
Context that, Krishna was born, he died, he's not really the supreme reality manifesting itself. So who is saying that verse and what are its implications? What does that verse mean in this context then?
Ma, can I request not to dialogue? It is distracting me here. If he's not required, can he come out? It distracts you. You can't concentrate, and it's distracting. Your conversation is distracting me. It's not a soundproof room, please. Please understand that. See, when the Lord says, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam sujam. What that verse only states is that wherever there is an incline in adharma, dharma is born. Means out of the principle that justifies that argument or that mantra is there's a demand and supply. Where there's a demand for adharma increase, people really want some system, something to set right the total anarchy and the unrighteousness that becomes rampant in a society. The society is demanding for higher values. So as it were, a man of realization is born, as it were. It's not possible a man of realization is born. What happens is the knowledge is supplied because there's demand. Now, why has this premises created? Why is it that everything here is tuned in so that this knowledge can be delivered? Why is this particular happening now? Because you all have found a demand for it. To that extent, there's somebody supplying it. So who is speaking to you now? The self through me is speaking to you now. To what extent? To the extent I have realized. If I have only realized 20%, to that extent, the self speaks through me to you now. Why? Because you have a demand. The self spoke then in the war through the Lord. To what extent? To the extent Arjuna needed. To what extent did he speak or reveal the self? To the extent he discovered, which was 100%. Therefore, we say Bhagavan Vach. So this concept or principle of demand and supply drives this knowledge. And wherever there's a demand, there's supply. And this country in particular has been blessed because time immemorial, periodically, every 100 years you look in history, this country has been blessed with a man of realization. Every 100 years, keep going back. As long as you go back. So therefore, this land is a blessed land. They say, nowhere in the world has happened like this. The West are holding on to some residues of what these great men, Vivekananda went and spoke. The whole world perhaps took note of him. But where did he go? It's all from here. So in that sense, we must understand yada yada hi dharmasya. Not literally that a man of realization is born, because then you're wrong philosophically, logically you're wrong. Ramji, something?
Since throughout he keeps saying I, all the verses he says I on it. So that I we have to understand as this I, what you showed earlier.
Yes.
Correct? That those two are the same eyes. So that means he is delivering this from a Krishna is only a body which is delivering it, but actually it is coming from the real Brahman. I mean, because all the messages are the Brahman's messages only, right? Which you may call as self, but it is, so whether Krishna is a realized person who is delivering it, or Brahman is speaking through Krishna, whatever it is, but that Krishna is only a delivery mechanism.
So who is I'm tantamount to saying the self is speaking through me now to you right now. What's the difference between Lord spoke then and I am speaking the same truth now? The same truth. What's the difference in degree? That's all. To the extent I have unfolded that message is coming to you. The self through me is speaking to you. When you speak, the self through you speaks. To what extent have you realized? You got to find out. If you have attained 100% realization, if you speak, whether you are heard or not, whether you have the language to speak or not, doesn't matter. You can communicate even through maunam. That's what the great Ramana Maharshi communicated. He was not as eloquent as any of these modern gurus. He was not a man of words. He didn't travel the world. The world congregates at his footsteps. And yet he communicated through silence. That's the power he gathered, he attracted, he had for his realized state he was attained in. You get it? So quickly coming back to the verse, I'll
just make a small addition. By the same logic, eventually the Brahman is speaking to itself. Because we are also Brahman. We are part of the same. So the Brahman is preaching to itself. No, except that in the relative plane, we are unevolved, and hence we need the teacher.
Sir, you can't play by the stances. When you in philosophy, there is a stance of an absolute reality and relative reality. So you either take the relative stance or the absolute stance. So as a relative standpoint, you are a mortal, you are an unevolved state, you seek to get back to your original state, which is self-realization. From absolute state, that the word, you are that Brahman. But you can't talk from an absolute standpoint.
I made the point to say, hence, from a relative point, then what was Krishna and what is Mahavishnu? They are much more evolved beings, and still at the same time, they are also relative reality. That's what we are saying. Are we saying that?
I'm not saying anything. I'm only saying these gods and goddesses. I would even go to the extent of questioning, are they a form which existed? We have given a form, a name, for our convenience. What are they? They are only manifestations of Brahman, that's all. They are manifested powers, that's all, sir. Like wind. What happened? A manifested power was just given a name and a form, that's all. For our convenience. Wind god is called Vayu. Sun god is called something. They're given various names. It's not here. I didn't do anything to it. I hope these people online are there. I don't see them. My screen is switched off. They are there on your laptop? Okay. Some transmission is. It's okay. They can still hear me, no? Is it? That part of story, I don't know. Okay, I think now we are getting into some discussion of the story. So we will officially call off the class. Philosophically, we'll come back to Ajaha next week. Huh? I think we this time up we'll conclude and then we'll come back again. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.